Get in or get out. Here's 5 reasons. Hi, I'm Roger the Retro Gaming Puppet, and welcome to 5 Reasons. Did you know that this week is the 20th anniversary of the Nintendo 64's North American launch? It's true. It started as September 30th, which was a Monday, but Nintendo decided that a weekend would be better, so they bumped it back to Sunday, September 29th. Of course, then retailers got their shipments and started selling it as early as Thursday, September 26th, so Nintendo just said that everybody could do that. So yeah, not so much a launch day as a launch week. The Nintendo 64 was Nintendo's console entry to the 5th generation of gaming, and it was the last home system, to date anyways, for them to use cartridges. When the system launched, there were only 2 games available for the entire first month, but I suppose when one of them is a title that signals a sea change in the medium, that's probably not the worst thing. The games in question were, of course, Pilot Wings 64 and Mario 64. And thus began the obnoxious trend of putting 64 after nearly every game title. The N64's lifespan in North America continued until August of 2002, when the final licensed title on the platform, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, hit the market. After 6 years, the system sold nearly 33 million units worldwide and had a library of roughly 300 games in the US. There are a handful of system variants, but they're mostly just color changes. Notably, there is a Pokemon version that is shaped like Pikachu. The system also introduced a RAM expansion partway through its lifespan, and though it's only required for a handful of titles, it enhances several more. Finding games for this episode was surprisingly easy. It turns out that there's only 23 titles available on any incarnation of Nintendo's Virtual Console service across different platforms and different territories. Since Microsoft acquired Rare, a handful of their N64 games have come out on Xbox Live Arcade and on the Rare Replay compilation for Xbox One, but that still leaves a lot of titles that never left the platform. So hey, let's do this. Here's 5 reasons to own a Nintendo 64. Beetle Adventure Racing is an arcade-style racing game published by EA in 1999. It's officially licensed by Volkswagen and coincided with the Beetle coming back to the market. Every car in this game is, of course, a Beetle, but there are several options and colors available. It's a perfect balance between the out-and-out nonsense of Mario Kart and simulation-style racing, as any good arcade-style racer should be. It's really reminiscent of the San Francisco Rush series, with 6 tracks that have a ton of shortcuts. And those tracks are nice and long with solid designs that change slightly on each lap. Plus, there are 9 arenas for the Beetle Battle multiplayer mode. As Joe said in the last episode of Same Name Different Game, the N64 might have more great arcade-style racers than any other system ever. And Beetle Adventure Racing is one of the best on the platform, so yeah, we highly recommend it. Remember before when I mentioned that thing about N64 games having 64 at the end of their names all the time? Yeah, well, that's what led me to believe for years that this was simply a port of Doom on the N64, but not so. This is a totally unique Doom title with all new maps and one new weapon not found in any other Doom games. Oddly, this was developed by Midway, though rumor has it that some folks from id Software were on hand to oversee the development. At any rate, if you like Doom, this is one to check out, though I will warn you that it's dark, and not like the themes of the game or anything, but like it's actually dark. Like I had to turn up the brightness in the game all the way, and it was still hard to see some parts on my TV. Still, with Doom 2016 fresh in everybody's mind, it might not be a bad time to take a look at this lost installment in the series. Is it as good as the latest entry? No. But it's still a fun game, and it deserves a look from fans. There was a time, and I know it's hard to believe, but there was a time when Konami actually made video games. Hard to believe, ain't it? But it's true. And there was a time when they made a lot of video games, and they weren't afraid to do some quirky stuff. Now, the N64 is a system that is not known for its RPGs. In fact, it's quite the opposite. While its predecessor, the Super NES, introduced a lot of Western players to role-playing games with classics like Chrono Trigger, The Secret of Mana, and multiple entries to the Final Fantasy series, the N64 is nearly bereft of them. Enter Hybrid Heaven, my pick for the best RPG on the platform. Hybrid Heaven has a totally nuts story set in the modern day that takes heavy inspiration from stuff like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and John Carpenter's They Live. And while that alone would be enough to set it apart from the typical fantasy settings of the era, it incorporates a combat system that has led many folks to refer to it as the wrestling RPG. The combat is sorta like Parasite Eve, but, you know, with more pro wrestling. Oh, and you might have noticed, it's one of the very few, if not the only game on the N64 that supports a widescreen mode. Hybrid Heaven is the kind of game that is very difficult to describe within the confines of this show's format. It takes more than a couple of minutes, but just trust me when I say that if you like unique RPGs, this is one that deserves your time. Shake, shake. That's right. I couldn't possibly do this episode without mentioning the only one of Treasure's 3 games on the platform to both hit North America during the system's lifespan and to stay exclusive to the N64. Mischief Makers is a platform action game that focuses on, well, shaking things, but also throwing them at bad guys. Or throwing bad guys into things. The level designs are solid, the character designs and mechanics are unique, and the game is just plain fun to play. It's also one of the very few 2D games to hit the system, so if that type of game is your thing, check it out. This is one of the more obvious choices on this list, and quite frankly it's a little frustrating that it even fits the criteria of this show at all. I mean, it's a known title from a well-loved developer, and it's never gotten any kind of re-release in any format. I mean, we got Sin and Punishment from Treasure on the Wii U and Wii Virtual Consoles, and that game didn't even come out in North America during its original run, but we never get Mischief Makers? Come on. So yeah, if you're a fan of 2D action platformers, this one is a must. Come on. If you know us at all, you had to expect this. Arguably the best 3D wrestling game of all time, WWF No Mercy is still held up as the gold standard. When Midway put out that TNA game that may or may not have largely led to their bankruptcy, the developers gave interviews talking about this game. Indie games often claim to be inspired by this game. There's one on Kickstarter right now called Saturday Nights that's going to feature real indie wrestlers that's saying it takes inspiration from this game. This game is so beloved that there continues to be an active mod community around it, adding WWE legends and new members to the roster all the time. I don't even really need to talk about this game, because if you're at all interested in pro wrestling video games, you know about it. And if you're not, you probably still know about it. In fact, we've had non-wrestling fan friends play this game and still have a blast. The controls are easy to learn, but the gameplay systems are deep, and the single player has so many storylines that we still haven't seen them all. Look, it goes without saying that if you somehow enjoy professional wrestling and video games and you haven't played this game somehow, you need to. You have to, you got to, go check it out right now. Don't hesitate, stop watching the video, go play WWF No Mercy. And that'll do it. Thanks for watching this episode of 5 Reasons. I'm Roger the Retro Gaming Puppet, and come back next month because, hey, I'll be doing something a little different for this year's 5 Reasons Halloween special. See you then!
You know, ever since college, me and my brother Devon have had a real problem showing mercy. Back then, we showed no mercy in the classroom. And now, the Dudley boys show no mercy in the ring. So when GHQ asked us to be the No Mercy spokesman, we naturally agreed.
Wage war in all new backstage areas. Perform vicious double team moves and show no mercy in the high flying ladder match. WWF No Mercy for Nintendo 64. It doesn't get any badder than this. Rated T for teen.